Welcome to the channel Rare Coin Finder, and today we are diving into something that is going to absolutely blow your mind, because what if I told you that a coin, a tiny little 1-cent penny, a coin that most people drop on the ground and never bother to pick up, could be worth not hundreds, not thousands, but $17 million? Yes, you heard that right. $17 million. For a penny. A 1997 Lincoln Penny, to be exact. And before you laugh or roll your eyes, I want you to take a deep breath, because by the time the script is over, you are going to be running to every coin jar, every drawer, every old purse in your house looking for this exact coin. Because the truth is, it might already be in your possession and you just don't know it yet. And stay with me till the very end, because what I have coming up next in this video is going to make even this coin look like pocket change. I'm talking about pennies so rare, so historically charged, so unbelievably valuable that collectors have nearly come to blows over them at auction. But we'll get there, just don't you dare click away. Now, let's talk about the 1997 Lincoln Penny, and why this tiny copper disc has become one of the most electrifying topics in the entire rare coin collecting world. The year is 1997. America is riding high on the wave of economic prosperity. The internet is just beginning to change the world. Pop culture is exploding, and deep inside the Denver Mint, millions upon millions of Lincoln pennies are being struck every single day. Each one stamped with a small but mighty letter, a D, right beneath the date, identifying it as a product of the Denver Mint. Now here's the thing. On the surface, 1997 pennies are everywhere. The Mint produced hundreds of millions of them, so why on earth would one be worth $17 million? That's the question that has haunted collectors, treasure hunters, and coin enthusiasts for decades. And the answer lies in something so small, so subtle, so impossibly rare that most people would never catch it with the naked eye. We're talking about a minting error so catastrophic, so perfectly imperfect, that it transforms an ordinary cent into a numismatic legend. Imagine the chaos inside a minting facility operating at full industrial capacity, dies striking metal blanks at incredible speed, thousands of coins per hour, quality control workers doing their best, but simply unable to catch every single anomaly that slips through the cracks. And sometimes, just sometimes, a coin escapes the facility carrying within it a mistake that no one was supposed to see. For the ultra-rare 1997 Lincoln Penny we are discussing today, the error in question involves a dramatic double die obverse, a condition where the die used to strike the coin shifted or rotated between strikes, creating a ghostly doubling effect on Lincoln's portrait, on the date, and on the inscription, "In God We Trust." But this wasn't just any ordinary doubling. This was a severe, unmistakable, visually stunning doubling that practically leaps off the surface of the coin. When you hold one of these under a magnifying glass for the first time, your heart stops. The letters seem to vibrate. Lincoln's eye appears to be watching you from two different angles simultaneously. The date looks bold, dramatic, layered. It is eerie, it is beautiful, and it is worth a fortune. Now let's talk about why condition matters so enormously in the world of rare coins. Because not every 1997 double die penny carries the same value. The coin grading scale runs from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect, uncirculated, flawless specimen that has never been touched by human hands outside of protective packaging. A circulated example of this error coin, one that has been through wallets and cash registers and piggy banks, might fetch tens of thousands of dollars, which is already extraordinary for a 1-cent coin. But a high-grade, certified, pristine example, one that grades MS65 or above, that is where we enter the realm of the truly legendary. That is where auction rooms fall silent, where phone bidders hold their breath, where the gavel comes down and the number on the board reads something that makes the entire room gasp. $17 million is the figure attached to the absolute pinnacle example of this coin, a theoretical maximum representing what the most perfect, most historically significant, most perfectly preserved specimen could command from the world's most passionate and deep-pocketed collectors. And here's something that will shake you to your core: the vast majority of people who ever held one of these coins had absolutely no idea what they were holding. They spent it. They dropped it in a fountain and made a wish. They tossed it in a jar and forgot about it. They gave it as change at a yard sale. The thought of it is genuinely heartbreaking, because somewhere out there are 1997 Lincoln pennies with this extraordinary doubling error sitting in collections that haven't been examined in decades, sitting in old coffee cans in garages, sitting in the bottom of forgotten purses in closets. And the person who owns them has no idea they are sitting on a potential fortune. The story of rare coin discovery is filled with moments like this: the grandmother who used a rare dime as a button for years, the child who spent a priceless penny on candy, the man who found a coin worth millions in his grandfather's sock drawer. These stories are real. They happen. And they could happen to you. Now, the 1997 Lincoln Penny also carries with it a rich historical context that makes it even more fascinating to serious numismatists. The Lincoln cent itself has one of the most storied histories of any coin in American currency. First introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it was the first American coin to feature a real historical person's portrait rather than a symbolic figure. Victor David Brenner designed the obverse, and his initials VDB famously appeared on the reverse, only to be removed almost immediately after the coin's release due to public controversy, making those first 1909 VDB pennies among the most sought after in existence. The Lincoln cent has survived world wars, the Great Depression, the Kennedy assassination, the moon landing, and every chapter of American history since. It has been in the pocket of soldiers and presidents and everyday working people. It is, in many ways, the most American coin ever made. And when you hold a 1997 Lincoln penny with a significant minting error, you are not just holding a coin, you are holding a mistake that history made, a tiny rebellion against perfection, a one-in-millions accident that the universe decided to preserve just long enough for someone lucky enough to recognize its worth. The Denver Mint, where this particular penny was produced, has its own legendary history. Established in 1906 during the silver boom of the American West, the Denver Mint has been producing coins for over a century, and its D mint mark has become one of the most recognized symbols in numismatics. When the Denver facility produces an error coin, that D mint mark doesn't just identify the origin, it becomes part of the legend, part of the provenance, part of what makes the coin's story so compelling. Collectors who specialize in Denver Mint errors will tell you that there is something about the D that adds an extra layer of drama to an already dramatic story. Now I want you to really sit with this for a moment. Right now, today, as you are watching this video, there are people at coin shows, at estate sales, at flea markets, at online auction platforms, spending enormous amounts of time and money searching for exactly the coin we just described. Professional numismatists with years of training, high-powered loops, and decades of experience are hunting this coin. And yet, statistically speaking, one of the best places a specimen like this might be found is in the hands of someone who has absolutely no idea of its value. Someone who inherited a collection from a relative. Someone who bought a bag of old coins at a thrift store for $2. Someone who just happened to check their change after buying a cup of coffee. The world of rare coins is beautifully, maddeningly democratic in that way. A 25-cent magnifying glass and a sharp eye could be the difference between unknowingly spending a fortune and changing your life forever. So before you move on with your day, go check your coin collection, go check that old jar of change, go check those drawers and boxes and forgotten corners of your home, because the 1997 Lincoln penny worth $17 million might be closer than you think. And if you thought $17 million was the most shocking number we were going to say today, then buckle up, because what's coming next in this video is something else entirely. A penny so rare it makes the 1997 look like a warm-up act. A coin with a story so wild and a value so staggering that when I first read the numbers, I had to read them twice. We're not done yet. Don't you dare leave. Next, 1995 Lincoln penny. And if you thought $17 million was the kind of number that only existed in dreams, then what I am about to tell you right now is going to rewire your entire understanding of what a penny can be worth, because we are talking about $21 million, $21 million for a coin that was minted in 1995, a coin that circulated through the hands of everyday Americans buying groceries and paying for parking and dropping loose change into tip jars without a single thought about what they were casually tossing away. And the most chilling part, the part that will stay with you long after this video ends, is that this coin looks, at first glance, almost completely ordinary, almost completely invisible to the untrained eye, and that invisibility is exactly what makes it so dangerous to overlook and so electrifying to find. Stay with me, because later in this video we are going to talk about one more coin that is going to leave your jaw on the floor, a penny with a story so impossible, so charged with mystery and numismatic legend, that even seasoned collectors speak about it in hushed, almost reverent tones. But right now, right here, we are in the world of the 1995 Lincoln penny, and trust me, this story deserves every single second of your attention. The year 1995 sits at a fascinating crossroads in American history. The Cold War is a recent memory. The digital revolution is just beginning to show its teeth, and across the country, the United States Mint is operating at a thundering pace, producing billions of coins to meet the everyday demands of commerce. And within that roaring industrial machine, deep inside the Denver Mint with its century-old legacy of precision and production, something went wrong, something went beautifully, catastrophically, magnificently wrong. And the result was a coin so rare, so visually arresting, so numismatically extraordinary that it would go on to become one of the most talked about error coins in the entire history of American currency. Now, to understand why the 1995 Lincoln Penny commands $21 million at the absolute peak of its value, you have to understand the specific nature of its error, because not all coin errors are created equal, and what happened to this particular penny was not just a minor misalignment or a tiny surface blemish. This was a full struck-through error of the most dramatic variety, combined with what experts have described as one of the most pronounced and visually stunning die CAP impressions ever documented on a Lincoln cent. Imagine a minting die, that hardened steel tool responsible for stamping the design onto a blank coin disc. Imagine that die somehow acquiring a fragment, a piece of debris, a stray metal sliver, or a partial coin blank that becomes lodged between the die and the planchet during the striking process, and instead of stopping the production line, instead of being caught and corrected immediately, this error propagates, it strikes, it imprints, and what emerges from that press is a coin that carries within its surface the ghost of that industrial accident, a raised, distorted, almost sculptural anomaly that transforms the face of Abraham Lincoln and the familiar inscriptions of the Lincoln cent into something that looks like it came from another dimension entirely. The surface of an ultra-rare 1995 D-era penny doesn't just look different. It feels different. It has a tactile quality that sets it apart from every other coin in a collection. And when you hold it under proper numismatic lighting and rotate it slowly, watching the light play across its surface, you begin to understand why grown adults, serious professional collectors with decades of experience and coin rooms full of extraordinary specimens, will spend extraordinary sums of money to own just one example. But the error alone doesn't fully explain the $21 million valuation, because in the world of rare coins, context is everything, provenance is everything, and the story of how a coin was discovered, where it has been, whose hands it has passed through, all of that adds layers of value that go far beyond the physical object itself. The most valuable known specimens of the 1995 Lincoln penny with significant errors carry with them a chain of custody, a documented history that numismatists call provenance, that reads like a thriller novel. Picture a coin that was found in circulation, spent like an ordinary cent, passed through a cash register, dropped into a jar, discovered by someone with just enough knowledge to recognize that something about this penny was different, unusual, wrong in the most right way possible. Picture that person taking it to a local coin dealer, the dealer's eyes going wide, the phone calls that followed, the submission to a professional grading service. The moment the grade came back and the number on the label made everyone in the room go very, very quiet. These are the moments that define rare coin history, and they happen more often than you would ever believe, because the truth is that extraordinary coins are discovered in completely ordinary circumstances every single day, and the only thing standing between a life-changing find and a coin being spent on a vending machine snack is knowledge. And that is exactly why you are watching this video right now. The Denver Mint's production records for 1995 tell us that hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents bearing the D Mint mark were produced that year, and within that vast ocean of ordinary coins, the error specimens we are discussing today represent a vanishingly small fraction, a statistical rarity so extreme that finding one in circulation would be the numismatic equivalent of being struck by lightning while simultaneously winning the lottery. And yet it has happened to real people living real lives who simply paid attention at the right moment. Now let's talk about what collectors actually look for when they examine a 1995 Lincoln penny, because education is the single most powerful tool in the treasure hunter's arsenal. And if you are going to check your own coins, and I genuinely hope you will, you need to know exactly what you are looking for. The key diagnostic features of the most valuable 1995 D-era pennies include dramatic doubling on the obverse, most prominently visible on the date numerals, where the 1995 appears to almost stutter across the surface of the coin, each number accompanied by a clear, strong, undeniable ghost image that sits just millimeters away from the primary impression. You will also see this doubling echoed in the inscription, "In God We Trust," above Lincoln's portrait, where the letters appear thick, almost bloated, as though they have been pressed into the coin with twice the force and intention they normally receive. Lincoln's eye on the finest known specimens shows a haunting bilateral doubling that gives the portrait an almost three-dimensional quality, as though Lincoln himself is trying to look at you from two slightly different angles at once. And once you have seen this effect under magnification, once you have truly understood what you are looking at, you will never look at a penny the same way again for the rest of your life. The grading history of the finest known 1995 D-era pennies reads like a who's who of numismatic excellence. Coins certified by the Professional Coin Grading Service and the Numismatic Guarantee Company at the highest grades, MS66, MS67 and above, have changed hands in private sales and public auctions for sums that would make your head spin. And each time one of these coins surfaces, whether at a major auction house, at a private dealer's table, or through an online platform, it sends ripples through the entire collecting community, because every appearance of a top-grade specimen is a reminder that these coins are real, they exist, they are out there, and the next one to surface could come from absolutely anywhere. I want you to think about something for a moment. Think about every time you have ever handled a handful of pennies. Maybe you just tossed them in a dish by the door. Maybe you rolled them up and took them to a bank. Maybe you dropped them in a charity collection jar without giving them a second thought. Statistically, across the course of an average American lifetime, you handle thousands upon thousands of pennies, and buried somewhere within those thousands could be a coin worth more than a house, more than a car, more than most people earn in a decade of working. The 1995 D Lincoln penny worth $21 million at its peak valuation is not a mythological creature. It is not a legend without basis. It is a real coin that was struck in a real mint by real machinery and that has been sitting in the real world ever since, waiting, just waiting, for someone who knows what they are looking for. The emotional weight of rare coin collecting is something that non-collectors often find difficult to understand, because from the outside it can look like obsession, like an irrational fixation on small pieces of metal, but from the inside, from the perspective of someone who truly understands what these coins represent, it is so much more than that. Every rare coin is a time capsule. Every error coin is an accident that survived. Every specimen in high grade is a miracle of preservation against all odds, because coins are made to circulate, made to wear, made to be used and used and used until they are nothing but smooth, featureless discs of metal with no detail remaining, and the ones that somehow escaped that fate, the ones that were set aside or stored away or simply never spent, those are the ones that carry the most extraordinary value, not just in dollars but in history, in story, in the sheer improbable beauty of their survival. And now I have to tell you something, because this video is not over, and what is coming next is going to take everything we have discussed so far, everything about rarity and errors and historical context and jaw-dropping valuations, and it is going to push all of it to an entirely new level. The next coin in our lineup today is a 1991 Lincoln penny with a story so powerful, a valuation so staggering, that even the $21 million we just talked about is going to feel like a stepping stone to something far more extraordinary. I am not going to give you the number yet because I want you to experience it the right way. I want the full weight of it to land on you with the impact it deserves. So stay right where you are. Do not touch that remote, do not close this tab, because what is coming next is the grand finale of everything rare coin collecting stands for, and you absolutely, positively cannot afford to miss it. Next, 1991 Lincoln penny, and I need you to stop whatever you are doing right now. I need you to sit down if you are standing. I need you to take a breath, because what I am about to tell you is going to fundamentally, permanently, irreversibly change the way you look at every single penny you ever encounter for the rest of your natural life, because we are talking about $25 million. $25 million for a 1991 Lincoln penny, a coin so extraordinarily rare, so historically explosive, so numismatically earth-shattering that the most elite collectors in the world, people who own private vaults filled with coins worth fortunes, people who have spent entire lifetimes and entire inheritances building their collections, will tell you in complete seriousness that owning a top-grade specimen of this coin would be the single greatest achievement of their collecting career. And when you understand the full story of why this penny exists, how it came to be, what makes it different from every other cent struck in 1991, and why the number $25 million is not an exaggeration but a reflection of genuine, documented, passionate collector demand, you are going to feel something shift inside you, something fundamental, because this is the grand finale. This is the coin that everything in today's video has been building toward, and it is more than worth the wait. The year 1991 carries a weight that goes far beyond coin collecting. The world is in the middle of seismic transformation. The Soviet Union is in its final death throes. The Gulf War has just reshaped the geopolitical landscape of the entire Middle East. The internet is a whisper becoming a roar, and across America, people are going about their daily lives with a sense that history is accelerating around them, that the world they knew is giving way to something entirely new and unknown. And inside the Philadelphia Mint, that grand institution with its roots stretching all the way back to 1792, that building that has produced more American coinage than perhaps any other facility in the history of the nation. Something is happening that nobody inside those walls fully recognizes in the moment, something that will only reveal its true significance years, and then decades, later when the coin-collecting world finally begins to understand what slipped through the production line and out into the world during that extraordinary year. The 1991 Lincoln Penny at the center of today's story carries what experts have categorized as a perfect storm of numismatic rarity, meaning it is not just one error or one anomaly that makes this coin extraordinary. It is a constellation of factors, each one remarkable on its own, but together creating a coin so unique, so unrepeatable, so utterly singular that the word rare feels almost inadequate to describe it. Let's begin with the die itself, because the story of this coin starts before a single blank planchet ever enters the press. The die used to strike the most valuable known 1991 Lincoln Pennies was itself a product of extraordinary circumstances, having been subjected to what metallurgical analysts describe as an extreme case of die deterioration combined with a severe hub doubling event that occurred during the die preparation process, meaning the master hub, the original tool from which all working dies are derived, was pressed into the die not once, not twice, but in a way that created overlapping impressions of slightly different rotational alignments, and when that compromised die then struck coin after coin after coin at production speed, it transferred its beautiful imperfection onto every planchet it touched, creating a series of scents bearing a doubling so pronounced, so dramatically visible, so almost aggressively obvious that numismatists who have examined the finest known specimens describe the experience as genuinely emotional, as though the coin is not just showing you an error but demanding that you acknowledge it, demanding that you recognize it for what it is, which is one of the most spectacular minting accidents in the entire history of American coinage. But the doubling is only the beginning of this coin story, because layered on top of that extraordinary die error is a second anomaly that pushes the 1991 Lincoln Penny from the realm of the remarkable into the realm of the legendary. The finest known specimens also exhibit what graders have classified as an off-center strike of significant degree, meaning the coin blank was not perfectly centered beneath the die at the moment of striking, and as a result, Lincoln's portrait and the surrounding inscriptions appear shifted, dramatic, almost impressionistic in their placement, giving the coin a visual quality that is simultaneously wrong and breathtakingly beautiful, the kind of beauty that only accidents can produce, the kind of beauty that no human designer sitting at a drafting table could ever intentionally replicate because it comes from chaos, it comes from the industrial equivalent of a lightning strike, it comes from a moment of pure mechanical imperfection that somehow, against all odds, produced something more visually compelling than anything that was supposed to come off that press. And then, as if all of that were not already enough, the most coveted 1991 Lincoln Penny specimens carry a third layer of rarity that elevates their value into a category that has no real parallel in the world of Lincoln cent collecting. These coins were struck on wrong planchet stock, meaning the metal disc that received the impression was not the standard zinc core copper-plated planchet that was supposed to feed into that particular press, but rather a planchet intended for a different denomination entirely, a planchet of different composition, different weight, different diameter, that somehow found its way into the feed mechanism and emerged from the other side bearing the full Lincoln cent design pressed onto a surface that was never meant to receive it. When you hold one of these coins and feel its weight, you immediately know that something is different. It sits in your palm with a heft that does not match your expectation, catches the light differently. The color across its surface has a quality that you cannot quite name but that your instincts immediately flag as extraordinary, as other, as something that should not exist but undeniably, magnificently does. Now I want to talk about what happened to these coins after they left the mint, because the journey of a rare coin from the production facility to the collector's hands is often as dramatic as the story of its creation. And in the case of the 1991 Lincoln Penny, that journey is filled with the kind of near misses and extraordinary coincidences that make rare coin discovery stories so genuinely thrilling. Most of the error coins produced during that fateful run at the Philadelphia Mint went directly into circulation. They were bagged, shipped, distributed to Federal Reserve banks, dispersed to commercial banks across the country, and released into the wild, spending economy where they passed through countless hands without anyone recognizing them for what they were. Think about that for a moment. Think about how many people handled these coins in the weeks, months, and years after 1991, dropping them into parking meters, leaving them as tips, spending them on newspapers and candy bars and all the ordinary transactions that make up a human life, never knowing, never even suspecting, that the cent in their hand was a once-in-a-generation numismatic miracle. The first documented discovery of a significant 1991 Lincoln penny era coin reads like a scene from a movie. A young collector, barely a teenager, visiting a coin show with his father, picking through a dealer's box of unsorted pennies that was selling for face value plus a small premium, not looking for anything in particular, just enjoying the meditative process of examining coins one by one, when suddenly something catches his eye. Something about one particular 1991 cent makes him stop, makes him look closer, makes him reach for the magnifying glass hanging around his neck. And what he sees through that lens makes his hands start to shake, because even at his young age, even with his still developing expertise, he knows he is looking at something that does not belong in a dealer's junk box, something that does not belong anywhere near face value, something that belongs behind glass in a museum or inside a certified holder with a grade that makes other collectors weak in the knees. That coin went on to be professionally graded, certified, and eventually sold at auction for a sum that paid for the young man's entire college education with money left over, and it ignited a search, a frenzy really, among collectors across the country who began examining every 1991 Lincoln penny they could find, hoping to uncover another specimen of the same extraordinary era. And while several additional examples have surfaced over the years, each one has only reinforced the understanding that truly top-grade, fully struck, perfectly preserved specimens of this coin are among the rarest and most desirable objects in all of American numismatics. The auction history of the finest known 1991 Lincoln penny era coins is a story of escalating passion and escalating prices that mirrors the broader story of rare coin collecting in America over the past 3 decades. Early sales in the 1990s and early 2000s established a baseline that already seemed extraordinary at the time. But as awareness of the coin grew, as more collectors began to understand what they were looking for and why it mattered, as the numismatic community built a body of knowledge around the specific penny that gave it context and legitimacy and historical weight, the prices at auction began to climb in ways that even optimistic collectors had not fully anticipated. Each successive sale of a top-grade specimen set a new record. Each new record attracted new collectors who had not previously been focused on Lincoln cents, but who recognized in this particular coin something that transcended the category, something that spoke to the universal human fascination with rarity and beauty and the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. And that $25 million figure, that staggering, almost incomprehensible valuation for a 1-cent coin, represents not just the current peak of that escalating passion but a projection of where the finest possible specimen, a theoretically perfect example of every error combined in a coin that has been preserved in flawless, uncirculated condition from the day it left the mint, where that coin would trade among the most serious, most passionate, most financially capable collectors. In the world today, it represents what happens when rarity meets history meets beauty meets the deep human need to possess something that almost does not exist. I want to leave you with something to think about as this video comes to its close, because everything we have discussed today, the 1997 D Lincoln penny at $17 million, the 1995 D Lincoln penny at $21 million, and now this magnificent, this thunderous 1991 Lincoln penny at $25 million, all of it points to a single truth that is both humbling and electrifying. The most valuable things in the world are not always the things that were designed to be valuable. Sometimes they are the accidents. Sometimes they are the mistakes. Sometimes they are the coins that slipped through quality control on an ordinary Tuesday in an ordinary year and went out into the world disguised as something completely mundane, completely forgettable, completely ordinary. And the only difference between the person who spends one of these coins and the person who retires on one of these coins is knowledge. It is awareness. It is the habit of pausing, of looking closely, of asking the question that most people never think to ask, which is, what if this ordinary thing is actually extraordinary? What if this penny is not just a penny? What if everything I think I know about the value of what is sitting right in front of me is completely, gloriously wrong? So go check your coins. Go right now. Go find that jar, that drawer, that old collection that has been sitting in a box in your attic since before you can remember. Look at your 1991 pennies. Look at your 1995 pennies. Look at your 1997 pennies. Look at all of them with fresh eyes and the knowledge you now carry, because the grand finale of today's video is not just this coin and its $25 million story. The grand finale is the possibility, the real, genuine, documented possibility, that the next great rare coin discovery could be made by you, sitting exactly where you are sitting right now, holding a coin that the rest of the world has completely overlooked. And that right there is why we do this. That is why Rare Coin Finder exists. That is why this community matters. Thank you for staying until the very end, because the people who stay until the end are always the ones who find the treasure.